As spring weather dawns on the campus of Seton Hall University, students are still dealing with the effects of a global pandemic that came into their lives just a year ago. I'm Ronny Castaneda for PTV and WSOU News, and I'm talking to students and getting how they feel 1 year after the university's shutdown.
When I've talked to other people, they are very disappointed, but I've learned to kind of give them a lot of credit, actually. I think they tried to keep things open. They did want to, and then circumstances just kind of got out of their control. At first it was, everyone thought we would be in quarantine for 2 weeks and come back. And we all kind of thought that would happen. And it's not like Seton Hall is the only school that failed that mission. So I think they handled it as well as they could have.
I feel like they handled it pretty well. It was kind of a difficult situation and it was new for everybody, and I think the best way they could have handled it was by sending us home, even though that was a difficult decision.
I was an RA, and so we had a lot to deal with in terms of when are the buildings closing, when are people going to be allowed to come back. And I remember I don't even want to call it a panic on campus, but it was like everyone kind of knew something was happening, and we were all kind of in it together.
They definitely could have done a better job last year informing all of us because it was very short notice. And to me that was really difficult. I mean, I do live close to home, but like Ari, for example.
Yeah, I'm from New Hampshire, so I had to figure out last-minute travel plans to go home, and if it was even safe to take a train, a plane. My parents couldn't drive down because they were scared that they were gonna catch something here. So it was really difficult figuring that out too.
I definitely feel like it was handled better than other universities that my friends go to. I've heard situations of them where they don't have any restrictions or where things are just open, yada yada. But I definitely feel like they left things to be desired. I think fall coming back, the testing of students on campus was spotty, and the testing of commuters was also spotty, just because, commuters are still here and they're still up with us, among us on campus while we're having classes and such, but they're not really tested like residential students were tested.
It was challenging at the beginning because even the same that this was a new experience for us, it was a new experience for many of our government officials. So they had to come up with standards, policies, and guidelines on the fly. So for us to be able to reopen, we had to wait for the guidelines that were deemed safe enough by the health officials and our state officials to be able to reopen. And those guidelines kept changing because the conditions of the pandemic kept changing. So as you might recall, there was a stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, and our reopening plan was predicated on having reached the safety conditions predicated by stage 3 or other government guidance, which came very much at the end of the summer. I think what the pandemic has taught us is that what we think is going to happen is going to change, and so we need to deploy, learn, and readjust. So, for example, one thing that we learned is when we planned for the summer and we planned for our high flex environment in the classrooms, we expected much more presence on campus than we actually saw. And what we realized is that the students, so we planned our schedules for an A-B schedule and 1, 2, 3, just to make sure that the classroom size was small enough to guarantee social distancing and safety protocols. What we realized is that the students started to attend some classes from their dorm or decided to attend some classes online. So we saw an adjustments to the teaching schedule, much more with a bigger flexibility than what we expected. So what we did is throughout the winter, we started looking at how students were registered for classes, and then changed some classes to completely online if 90% of the students were choosing the online experience, because that would have been the most effective way to deliver the class, and then trying to concentrate some of the classes in iFlex where we were seeing that the students were more in the iFlex preferences. So we and the faculty and the students themselves had to adjust on really on the fly. Yeah.
First semester, I thought that, they had a better plan in place, so I felt really comfortable going back. This semester, I was kind of a little bit wary, but once we got back and kind of into our group of things, seeing our friends who literally live right next door to us, things felt a lot better, and I did definitely see a difference from last semester and this semester, and I was actually impressed.
Yeah, I feel like The first semester I was kind of scared coming back because like it is a risk like living on campus because you are exposed to a lot. But I feel like as time went on, like you became more comfortable because like I could see that like people were cleaning stuff and like they gave us the wipes to wipe down everything. So I was like going through the dorm wiping everything at night.
It became a little, I'd say, like ragtag at first, kind of on the fly, trying to learn. Now you kind of have some professors who are really great at the online stuff, and then some who just aren't built that way.
I cannot learn online. I have stigmas, I have ADHD, I can't sit in front of a computer and try to take in all this knowledge for hours at a time on my computer. My brain can't handle it, I can't do it. And it's also cut off my communication to other people, which has depressed me in other situations, and I try my best to continue talking to people and to continue putting myself out there, but there's just so much restriction on what I can do, and I understand, I'm not complaining about that, but it's led me to be in more uncomfortable situations by myself. My roommate moved out because of COVID on campus, so he went back home. So it's just me in my room. I don't really have anywhere else to go except now when it's warmer outside. So it's been a month and a half of just me being in my room by myself, not being able to go to class because I can't pay attention, not having anybody to talk to. So it's allowed me time for retrospection and introspection of myself, but kind of no time for me to implement that in my social settings. So it's put a damper on me just as a whole.
I feel like it was hard too. I felt like I was teaching myself most of the time because the professors can only do so much. Like a bunch of them were really old, so they didn't really know how to like use technology. So I felt like I just kind of had to like learn everything myself. And even still now, I feel like I'm teaching myself most of the material, which is really difficult.
Without a doubt, the pandemic has brought a change in the way we do education. I am Christian Gardner, executive producer at Pirate TV, and I sat down with longtime Seton Hall philosophy professor Dr. Maria Pacillo to get a little more insight on how the pandemic has shifted the way we learn.
Juniors and seniors, in some ways, I think adapted to it a little bit easier. I feel like freshmen, especially incoming freshmen, really didn't know what to make of online learning. I know that I've dealt with multiple incidences of students, having depression and anxiety, and that hindering their, ability to really kind of keep up with the class. So I've really taken a high flex modality, literally. I've been extremely flexible. I've had students just deal with what they need to deal with, but I think it has been a hindrance. I think that a lot of students, not all, can't make an all statement, that's a generalization. A lot of students just didn't know what to do with it. In some ways, they got gypped out of a college experience of going to classes. And again, that social connection involved with that. So I do know a lot of people have struggled with it. But again, there are students who have thrived with it because that's what they prefer. So much like all students learn differently, they will prefer different learning delivery options. I would say probably more negative than positive. But again, I can't generalize to everybody's experience, just from what I've seen and what I've heard. I think that it's hurt students, especially some students who did come back to campus and were kind of quarantined in their dorm rooms. So that kind of made no sense to me, not necessarily at Seton Hall, at other universities I teach for. So they just kind of came back to campus and they were doing Zoom meetings in their dorm rooms, but not allowed to leave their dorm rooms. So I think that probably did not help. It did not help. And so when your overall mental health is affected, that clearly is going to have a correlation.
Now, your class is so built on communication throughout different students and discussion. How do you feel that online learning shifting that way has maybe hindered or even possibly helped in some of the courses that you teach?
Well, yeah, I think like anything else, Christian, I see the pros and cons of most things. The con of it is clearly there's something to me magical about being in a classroom face to face with my students and engaging in philosophy with them. I know that sounds very idealistic, but for me, I thrive on that. And to be able to see facial expressions and to be able to move around the room because I'm high energy and have those face-to-face discussions, there's nothing really that replaces that. Zoom cannot replace that. On the other hand, what I do see with this high flex model, especially heavily depending on the discussion board and having students talk to each other there, is that there are students, well, let's back up. There will always be students who participate no matter what, whether they're in person or whether they're online. That's it. And there's always going to be students who just don't. Okay. And so giving them an opportunity to write their thoughts out on the discussion forum and engage that way pulls in students who may never want to talk in class. I have always relied on Blackboard, even when I teach face-to-face. So unlike other colleagues, and that's really, it's not an offense against them, they really had to scramble to learn the technology. Much like anything else in life, you could approach it with all the negatives, or you can approach it by looking for some kind of silver lining. And I think especially, I can't say enough with Seton Hall, how they seamlessly helped everybody transition online, really did what they needed to do, like I said, in terms of the classrooms and how to manage this. And really has shown that, we can do certain classes online. I've heard the argument that there's nothing that can replace face-to-face learning. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't prefer it, but to say that nothing picture the university system 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's all probably going to be online. So I think it gave us a glimpse of what we can do. And it's strange. Of course, anything new is strange, but maybe we got a glimpse of the future. And maybe universities are going to start offering more online modalities. Maybe it could change the entire landscape of higher education. So I myself I've taken the good with the bad, but I'm really happy to be coming back in person.
I think that's missing. Humans are social beings, and although we learned to maybe optimize and be more efficient in some areas through virtual interactions, I think our campus is really the cradle of those social interactions and coming together and learning from each other. So I think that's what's missing, and I can't wait for us to be in a position to come back.
I do very much miss running into people all the time. When people you don't have classes with, you might not see too often, but it's like every now and then you just pass them walking around campus. That doesn't happen. So I've had to be more intentional with, the social life and everything. But academically, I think it was just an adjustment that we made, and I think everyone tried their best. I know some people kind of hold some animosity towards some professors who aren't as good at it, but there's plenty of things I'm not good at. I just haven't been tested in it yet, so.
I think my biggest takeaway is that a lot of people are stronger than we think we are, and we can get through a lot of challenges. It's definitely proven to me that I'm stronger than I thought I was, and that I can handle more than I thought I could. So
I've definitely changed as a person throughout this year. I've become more grateful for the little things in life that I took for granted, like traveling or even just seeing someone on campus, like my family. None of them can visit now. So I definitely took that for granted, and I feel like I'm a more grateful person now.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely, during quarantine, had a lot of self-growth and self-development, and kind of just had time to sit with myself and figure out who I really was and who I wanted to be. And it definitely got tiring after a while, just kind of being alone, but it was nice to just spend that time with my family as well. But I do agree, I definitely did take things for granted, especially on campus, being able to have guests in the building, and even something as simple as literally sitting down in the cafeteria and eating with my friends. It's been really difficult to kind of not be able to do that anymore, so I'm definitely starting to realize things that I did take for granted.
I think that Seton Hall especially has done a really great job, and I think that's because of the students and everyone that comes here. I think we've all kind of bought in and understood there are certain things that we have to do to make sure it doesn't become worse than it is.
There's still those small little times of forgetting, those small little times of being out with friends and you take it off and you just don't mind it. There's all a situation that we can handle differently, we can handle better, and if we had handled it better, maybe we wouldn't be where we are right now.
I feel very optimistic because we are going to mostly in-person classes next semester. So my roommate from last semester that decided to go to remote is coming back. So I'm really excited to kind of get back to some normalcy around here.
I would like to thank the students for their resilience, and thank you for coming back, or for being back even virtually, but participating. I was interviewed by a student who was doing a class project. She was remote, but she was still involved in so many activities through Virtual Club. just be resilient. There will be jobs also online. You mentioned the internships and other career opportunities. Those jobs are morphing a little bit, but they will maybe even transform in a way that you will continue to have an opportunity to continue to work while in class, and so be able to balance inside and outside the campus better. So I just hang in there, and I think we will come out of this so much stronger. So thank you for being back. It's beautiful to see everyone on campus, and I hope we can continue to be here and see more and more of the students back on campus.